Hello everybody, are you ready for Unit 4? Will you please open your books at page 60? Good. We are looking at Bepin Choudhury's Lapse of Memory. Get ready now. Before we start the lesson unit, we will do some talking. You know memory? What are the other words which are associated with or related to memory? We talk of remember, remembering. All of you are young and so you have brilliant memory. You can remember everything, not like me. Now, memory or remembering is something very important, isn't it? It is. We should remember. And today we are going to talk about a gentleman who seems to have some problem with memory. Does he have a problem? Or doesn't he? We will see it very soon. We are talking about Bepin Choudhury, also known as Bepin Babu. Where is he from? Kolkata. Now, Bepin Babu had an extraordinary ability to select books. He had a habit of going to the market every Monday and select books for his own reading. And how many? Not one, not two, but 4, 5 books. This Monday also he goes to the market. He is looking for books. Now something happens there. Are you with me? Take a look at the page 60. Good. As he is in the market and as he is looking at books, searching for the book that he wants, he notices somebody standing there and watching him. Now he turns, looks at that man, and that man smiles. And smiles as if he knows Bepin Babu. Now, Bepin Choudhury is a bit disturbed because he doesn't know that man, a stranger, and looking at him, smiling. He says, do you know me? Of course I do. You know me? Yeah, I know you. We met in Ranchi. Ranchi? Bepin Babu is very surprised. Did we meet in Ranchi? He doesn't remember that. He doesn't know Ranchi, of all places. Oh yes, you were there, that man says. And we were together. I took you to places. You saw lots of places with me. Oh, did I? Oh. Bepin Babu says, you see, I have never been to Ranchi. Oh, that man won't leave. He says, of course you have been there. Of course we have spent time together. Now Bepin Babu is very confused. He doesn't remember ever to have been to Ranchi, and this man says, you have been to Ranchi. And we have been together and so on. And he says quite a few things about him. But let's take a small break here and let me ask you, do you know where is Ranchi? Ranchi in India? That place is very well known because somebody lives there, is from that place. Do you know where it is? Yes, Ranchi is in Jharkhand. And you know who comes from Ranchi? I'll give you a clue. It is MSD. Who is MSD? Mahendra Singh Dhoni. That's right. Dhoni is from Ranchi. Just for your information, our information. Okay, let's get back to Bepin Choudhury. Now he says, I have never been to Ranchi. But that man starts telling him that, oh, Oh, lots of things. You know, you went to Ranchi, you stayed there, we traveled around, we saw places, I took you to the falls, you didn't like hotel food, so I had to get you food from somebody's house, I had to do all these things, and so on and so forth. Oh my God! Bipin Babu is really confused now. He says, no, look, I have never been to Ranchi, I've never done any of these things at all. And that man was speaking very quietly, looking straight into Bipin Babu's eyes, very confident. And so it looked as if it had really happened in Ranchi, and they were certainly there. So Bipin Babu says, okay, when was this? When were we in Ranchi? And that man says, in October. Oh, October. Puja holidays. Ah, October 1958. October 1958, I was not in Ranchi during puja. I was in Kanpur with my friends, in my friend's house with my friend and his family, celebrating puja in Kanpur. But that man would not leave. He says, I am Parimal Ghosh, and I know you. And you also hurt yourself, I treated you, took you to the, all kinds of stories, all kinds of details, all kinds of information he starts giving Bipin Babu. Bipin Babu gets tired. He says, all right, whatever you might say, good. I know you are Parimal Ghosh, perfectly all right. And so Bipin Babu says, enough. Let me go home, I'm tired. Ranchi, meeting in Ranchi. I have never been to Ranchi. Okay, enough. And he gets back home. Good. That was in part 1. Look at those questions at the bottom of page 62 there. Can you read those questions? Look at them. It says comprehension check. And it says, why did the man stare at Bipin Babu in disbelief? In disbelief, not believing Bipin Babu. Why was that Parimal Ghosh staring at him? Because whatever he said, Bipin Babu said, I don't know. I was never there. I was not in Ranchi. I never did any of these things. Now look at question number 3. It says, mention any 3 or more things that Parimal Ghosh knew about Bipin Babu. Can you? All right. You can do that later. Let's go on to part 2. So, Bipin Babu comes home, relaxes, and before coming home, Bipin Babu is very disturbed. He sits in his car, tells his driver, what's the driver's name there? Look at that, Sitaram. Tells him to go near the Ganga, stop there. He wants to relax. He wants to think. What? Ranchi. Did I ever go there? He can't remember any longer. Oh, he can't. So what does he do? What he thinks now is that he said, I had a fall and my knee got hurt. Did it? So what does he do? Look at the picture at the bottom of page 63. You can see him examining his knee. Oh yes, there is a small little scar on the knee. But did it happen in Ranchi? Oh my God. So many things happen to our body all the time, but I don't know about Ranchi and this happening in Ranchi and so on. So he kept thinking, and finally he decided that, okay, see, I work in a big office. I have a good name for myself. I'm known as a good worker, and I work a lot. How can I forget? How can I lose my memory? Has my memory been lost? I don't know. He says, no, it's not possible. Anyway, I have checked my knee, and yeah, there is a scar there, and so on. So he decided that, all right, Bepin Babu finally comes home. And before coming home there, once again, he says, turn to the page 64 now. Shall I ask my friend, Dinesh Mukherjee? Because Dinesh knows about wherever I went and what my movement and where I go and where I don't go, etc. Shall I ask him about Ranchi, my visit to Ranchi? Will he remember? He thinks like that and decides that, all right, let me think about it, and comes home. Next morning, he is back at the office. But as soon as he comes to the office, once again his mind goes back to Ranchi. All those thoughts. Did I go to Ranchi? So what does he do? Next morning from the office, he calls Dinesh Mukherjee. Now this Dinesh man is his good friend, but he is also a bit of a problematic fellow. But Bepin Babu thinks that maybe Dinesh might know something about my visit to Ranchi. So he doesn't ask that directly. And so then he says, Dinesh, do you know where I went last puja? Dinesh looks at his diary, says, okay, let me check. There was a brief visit to some place, it's called Krishnanagar and so on. And Dinesh says, but you went to Ranchi also. You were in Ranchi. Now Dinesh Babu gets really annoyed. I don't know what. I can't recall going to Ranchi at all, Dinesh Babu. I don't know. That was section 2, where we found Dinesh Chatterjee there. Now look at all those questions on page 65. It says comprehension check again. Can you see the questions? Good. Now, it says, why did Bepin Babu worry about what Parimal Ghosh had said? Can answer. How did he try to decide who was right? His memory of Parimal Ghosh? Why did Bepin Babu hesitate to visit Mr. Mukherjee? And why did he finally decide to phone him? And the last question, what did Mr. Mukherjee say? Was it comfortable for Bepin Babu? Or did it add to his worries? I am sure you can answer all these questions fairly comfortably. Talk to your friends, discuss with them, and answer those questions on your own. Let's move on to part 3 now. Now, in part 3, we discover that Bepin Babu's head was reeling, going round and round in circles. He just couldn't relax. His mind kept on thinking, has my memory failed? Have I lost my memory? Is there a lapse? Is there a lapse in my memory? I can't remember things. He is worried now. He is very worried. A lot of thinking, too much of thinking. Comes home, doesn't go anywhere, and continues to think. Poor man, how can I remember everything else in my life, but forget about this trip to Ranchi? How can it happen like this? He asks. Okay. At that time, another friend of his, Chunilal, comes. Thus, Chunilal is a very interesting character. Bepin Babu knows him for a long time. And this Chunilal has no job, and he wants a job. And he wants Bepin Babu to get him a job. Or if he doesn't get him a job, Bepin Babu should give him money. And that's Chunilal for you. Now this Chunilal comes, and Bepin Babu says, oh, Chunilal of all people, my good old friend from my school days, we have been together. And now again this Chunilal comes, I'm already worried, and Chunilal comes. So he first says, ask the servant, tell him to go. But then he says, no, wait. Let me check with Chunilal about this Ranchi trip. So, oh, wait, come in. And so he calls Chunilal home, brings him in, asks him, Chuni, did I go to Ranchi in 1958? Now this Chunilal is a very clever fellow. He did not give the answer. But he kept on saying, what? You don't remember? You have lost your memory? You can't remember anymore? You can't remember even going to Ranchi and so on? That means you need treatment from a doctor. You better go to your doctor. Oh my God, this is becoming more and more complicated. Bepin Babu says, he says, all right. As Chunilal says, let me check with my doctor. And so he goes to his doctor. His name is Dr. Paresh Chanda. And this Dr. Chanda looks at him and examines him. Doesn't find anything wrong. Seems to be a normal man in a general checkup. Everything seems to be all right. And so Dr. Chanda says, look sir, I don't see anything wrong with you at all. But about this memory, about this remembering going to Ranchi or not, I can't say anything because that's part of your thinking and your memory and so on. I don't know. So why don't you do something? I'll give you some medicines just to be active and so on. But why don't you go to Ranchi and find out yourself? Okay. So if you go to Ranchi, you can find out whether you really went there or not, says the doctor. Bepin Babu says, that's a very good advice. Maybe I will do it. And that very evening, he takes the train and goes to Ranchi. And goes there next morning. Reaches there. And straight he takes a taxi and starts going around the city. Now, what happens? He finds out that he has not visited Ranchi. He cannot visiting anything, any of these places. No. He says, okay, maybe that man said that he took me to the falls or waterfall. I'll go there, let me go there and so on. He goes to the waterfalls, turn to page 68, goes to the waterfalls and unfortunately he falls there. He has a fall, poor man, suffering. And some tourists, Gujarati tourists, see him, help him and take him to the hospital. And from the hospital he comes back to Kolkata and he is back home. But then now he says, no, as far as I can say, I don't remember anything of Ranchi. I have not been there at all. He is very sure about it. He is very clear and says, okay, fine, doctor, what he said was right. I went to Ranchi, I saw all places, traveled around, visited the falls. Of course, I had a fall, but that apart, no, I have not been to Ranchi. He is very clear about it. That is the end of part 3. Good. Look at those comprehension check questions on page 68. Can you see them? Good. Let's read it. Who was Chunilal? Who was Chunilal? Yes, his friend from school days. Good old friend. What did he want from Bepin Babu? You know the answer. Good, very good. Why was Dr. Chanda puzzled? Nothing wrong with Bepin Babu. What was unusual about Bepin Babu's loss of memory? Yeah, doesn't remember having been to Ranchi and so on. So, let's move on to part 4. So, he visited Ranchi, came out, went all those places and so on. After he comes back, he is very tired. Look at the tired man sleeping on the bed. You can see the picture on page 69. Oh, poor chap. Everything has happened. He is very disturbed. Can you see the picture? Yeah. and he's asking his servant to bring some water and so on. But the servant says, "Sir, there is a letter for you." What? A letter? From who? "Sir, here is the letter." And that boy hands over that letter to him. And Bipin Babu looks at the letter and finds out that it's actually from Chunilal. And this letter, he says, shall we read the letter? "Dear Bepin, I had no idea that so much of richness has brought in you so much of a change of behavior. Was it so difficult for you to help me, your old friend from school days? Yeah, I am down on my luck. I have no money, but I have something else, which is I have rich imagination. And that imagination I used on you. A part of that imagination I have used on you. Why? Because of your unfeeling behavior. Because you did not help me out. You had no feelings towards me." Aha. So now Bipin Babu knows that all this Ranchi visit and so on are all what we call a practical joke. I see. So this guy had played a practical joke on him. But how did he get all these details? Because, all those that Parimal Ghosh, all of them he knows, and Bipin, Chunilal himself knows Bipin for a long time from his school days. All these details, all of them he concocted, put them all together and created a story, and poor Bipin Babu had to suffer his memory loss. But did he really have a memory loss? Of course not. No, the memory was all right. Poor man, he went all the way to Ranchi, checked. And poor man, what did he do there? My God, he checked, but in the bargain, he also had a fall. Poor man, he suffered a lot, but that's a practical joke. That's the story. Who has written this story? Check. His name is there at the end of the story. Satyajit Ray. And who is Satyajit Ray? Do you know him? Have you heard about him? If you haven't heard about him, you must know about him. He is the greatest cinematographer, producer of films in India and in the world. Some of his films are popular or talked about even to this day. Charulata and a few others. You must know more about Satyajit Ray from various sources. He is available all over the place. So know about Satyajit Ray and so on. So, quick check on comprehension. Page 70, look at those questions. Had Bipin Babu really lost his memory and forgotten all about a trip to Ranchi? Answer, of course not. Why do you think Chunilal did what he did, etc.? You know why he did all that. Good. Let's look at the exercises at the bottom of the page. It says working with the text. Now, question number 1. The author describes Bipin Babu as a serious and hard-working man. What evidence can you find? You can find lots of evidence in the story, and so on and so on. So you can answer all those questions whenever you have some time. Was Bipin Babu angry with Chunilal? No. He was not. He said, okay, just dismissed it. Now come to page 71 and look at exercises on working with language. Look at number 1. Look at these two sentences here. It says, he had to buy at least 5 books to last him through the week. And Bipin had to ask Chuni to leave. And there's a small explanation. Had to, he used to show that it was very important or necessary for Bipin Babu to do something. Had to do it. Had to buy books. Had to talk to somebody. Had to do something. He had no choice. We can also use have to or has to in the same way. You know why have to when you come? I have to, you have to, we have to, and so on. They have to, and so on. Now, fill in the blanks using had to or have to or has to. I dash cut my hair every month. I, so have to, and so on. So you can do all 6, 7 of them yourselves. Not very difficult. Turn the page over to page 72 and look at exercise number 3. And you will find 2 columns there, column A and so on. In column A, I saw this movie yesterday. And what do you find in column B? I have seen this movie already. I saw it yesterday. I have already seen it. Bepin Babu worked here for a week last year. Bepin Babu has worked here since 2003, not just last year. So on. You can look at that. Turn to the next page, 73. It says, speaking and writing. You are required, what happened after Bepin Babu came to know the truth? Was he angry and so on? You can answer that. Let's move on to the poem. It's a very interesting little poem for you. Let's read the poem. It says, the last bargain. A bargain is an agreement in which both parties promise to do something for each other, etc. Something that they enjoy and so on. Shall we start with the poem? Will you read with me? I'll read it slowly and you can also read with me. Get ready. Are you ready? Good. Come and hire me, I cried, while in the morning I was walking on the stone-paved road. Sword in hand, the king came in his chariot. He held my hand and said, I will hire you with my power. But his power counted for naught, and he went away in his chariot. That means his power had nothing, not much, just power, that's all. Went away. In the heat of the midday, the houses stood with shut doors, hot. I wandered along the crooked line that road. An old man came. He came out with his bag of gold. He pondered and said, I will hire you with my money. He weighed his coin one by one. But what did I do? But I turned away. Why? What is there in that bag of gold? Once that is gone, that's gone. It's over. It was evening. The garden hedge was all aflower, full of flowers. The fair maid came. She came out and said, I will hire you with a smile. Her smile paled, disappeared, and melted into tears. So the smile was gone, and she went back alone into the dark. So the fair maid was fair, smiled, but the smile disappeared. The sun glistened on the sand, and the sea waves broke waywardly all over the place. A child sat playing with shells. He raised his head and seemed to know me and said, I hire you with nothing. From henceforward, that bargain struck in child's play made me a free man. Who was it who came and said, I hire you with nothing? Just enjoy yourself. Who was that? The sun. Under the sun, the child is playing happily in the sea, on the beach. And what about me? I'm also under the sun, very happy. Any bonding? No bond. Was it a good bargain between me and sun? Yes, it was. Because the sun said, I will hire you with nothing, just yourself. So you enjoy your life. And I'm so happy. Who wrote this poem? Check there. Now you know how to check. That's right. Rabindranath Tagore.